Welcome to the Connected Spirit Podcast, a space where the mystical and the human experience merge, where we explore what it really means to walk a spirit-led path. I'm Courtney Dawson, an ethical medium and mentor, and for as long as I can remember, I have felt the presence of the spirit world. But my journey hasn't been simple. It's been one of self-discovery, healing from religious and emotional trauma, navigating fear, judgment, and the loneliness that comes with embracing something the world doesn't always understand. This podcast is here to take what was once considered woo and bring it into the real lived experience of being human. Because mediumship isn't just something we do, it's who we are. Here we dive into the conversations no one else is having, breaking down misconceptions, exploring the unseen, and normalizing the journey of deep connection. We'll talk about the beauty and the struggle of being a medium. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, we'll go deep. And most importantly, we'll remember who we are, why we're here, and how spirit moves through us all. So if you've ever felt something more, if you've ever questioned the unseen, or if you're simply ready to embrace the fullness of your spiritual path, you're in the right place. Hello, everybody. I am so excited to have one of my students, an amazing ethical medium, here with me today. And I'm so excited to celebrate her because she has done incredibly well, beyond exceptional in the mediumship mastery circles. So today I want to share with you Julia DeGroat. Julia, so great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So you are in my Tuesday night mediumship mastery circle, and you've actually started with me when I did an intro 6-week circle.
Yep.
And then, so that's been about 8 or 9 months. So let's kind of rewind the tape a little bit so people kind of get to know a little bit about you, your backstory. So before you joined my world, where were you at with your spiritual awareness, your mediumistic abilities, and where were you at as far as your development?
So, when I was little, I had some experiences, and I knew that this existed, that there was more than meets the eye. And it's funny because I've always kind of had that, going throughout life. I've been very sensitive to things. And there's just always kind of been this knowing there. And when I got pregnant with my daughter a few years ago, everything kind of just started opening up for me. And so I started getting like dream visitations a lot more. I just kind of felt like it was just kind of being rebirthed inside of me and that this was something that I needed to explore. So after I had my daughter, I kind of molded around, busy mom, working a full-time job. I'm like, when am I going to have the time to do this? But I found your podcast and it really resonated with me. And I felt like, this is something I can do. It's a few hours every week. Let me just try it and, just kind of see where it goes. So the circle has been amazing for me because it is a safe space.
Mhm.
Feel like, everybody is so supportive of one another. I feel like you just kind of make it very easy, the way that you teach, the different techniques that you give us. It has just been such a guiding light for me. And I am so blown away by the amount of progress that I have made since I've started.
It's absolutely incredible. So let's go back just a touch. So you've always had this sensitivity and this awareness to the spirit world. Before you had your daughter, had you ever taken any classes or tried any kind of formal development?
No, so I actually just kind of threw myself into, reading different books, listening to podcasts, just trying to figure out, where I fit in and where to even get started because it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so I was reading, a couple different books and I would do sitting in the power, meditations. And I actually did one. It was in Michael Mayo's book, and I had the craziest experience with that sitting in the power meditation. And honestly, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. so I was
Why? Tell me why.
I feel like I had been sitting in the power for a little bit, and I feel like I had this overwhelming love and this
Mm.
sensation that overcame me. And it just kind of made me just, realize, okay, that there is like something on the other side of this thin veil that I feel like I just need to get in touch with. So, yeah, so like I said, I just started delving in and trying to find, different circles, something that would resonate with me. And yeah, your podcast definitely steered me in the right direction. So,
I love that. That's really spirit led, and I know Michael Mayo, he's an incredible guy. And the sitting in the power practice is such a powerful experience. And each time you sit in the power, it's so different. So, for those of you that are listening, you might be like, well, I've heard of sitting in the power. What does it even mean? It's like so multi purpose, right? It's for your own personal development, it's an opportunity where the spirit world gets to develop you. And it's also a time for you to really strengthen your spiritual stamina, increase your sensitivity. Like, that's why I always say, sit in the power. Are you struggling giving a reading? Are you having a hard time sustaining the link with the spirit world? Every single time I'll go back, have you been sitting in the power? And 9 times out of 10, well, no. Well, that's why. So I'm glad that you had already had that, because if you actually did nothing else besides sitting in the power, you'd still develop your mediumship.
yeah,
It's
and that
true.
is homework that you give us, I will say, because it does.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
What would you say was probably like the most difficult thing transitioning from, I know I have these abilities and I'm doing all of these things that I'm supposed to be doing, but I know that I need more guidance and more mentorship. And so how was that transition for you, Julia, when you're going from doing this on your own into a circle with a group of other mediums? How was that for you?
So for me, you actually get the practice. And at first I was very, nervous. It's, you're being vulnerable, um,
Yeah.
self out there, and that can be very scary, but you've got to start somewhere. And I've always been the kind of person, it's like if my heart is into something, I'm just going to jump in, and just do it. And I felt so led to do this that for me, just ripping the band-aid off and just sitting in circle and putting the work in has made the biggest difference for me, hands down.
And I watch you as I watch all of the students that are in the circle, and I tune into each of you, which is really, I feel, important, because in those early stages, there's still that questioning. Is it me? Is it spirit? How do I know if I'm working psychically or mediumistically? And I'm pretty confident in saying, and I want to hear what your opinion is, you do connect with the spirit world, hands down.
Yeah.
And there's a confidence that's come from you. Talk to me a little bit about that. Where's that shift come from? Maybe feeling a little bit of nervousness or insecurity around your abilities, to when you're showing up in circle and you're doing the inspirational mediumship, the evidential communications, whether that's gallery style or in the one-to-ones, there's an element of confidence and trust in your abilities. What's that been like for you?
So for me, I've had to learn how to trust spirit,
Yeah.
just because I feel like they're always there. And for the longest time, I feel like I was second guessing what I was getting. I was like, no, is that really what they're trying to show me? And I think once I stopped doing that and I just started trusting what I was getting, that's when my mediumship started to soar. And I feel like I was getting information very different, when I first started to what I'm getting now. And like I said, to me, it's the practice. It's sitting with them. It's letting them work with you in different ways to kind of make you, well seasoned, as a medium. I think
Yeah.
that's important. So absolutely.
We had a couple months ago a mediumship evening where the ladies in our circle actually gave readings to the public. And you had two 15-minute readings. So these were complete strangers. You had no idea who you were going to read for. What was that like for you, being kind of put in the spotlight, really transitioning in from that place of being practicing to professional? How was that for you?
Well, I'll be honest, it was very scary at first because that was the first time I had ever done that. But it was so good. It was so good for me to do that because, you have to go outside your comfort zone. And I just feel like for me, I was so much more worried about it than what I should have been, because whenever you sit with, your person and the spirit comes through, it's just like being in circle. The connection is right there. It's the same thing. And so it was, to me, it was such a good learning curve to do that. I enjoyed it.
And and you did so well too, and the feedback is incredible, right? And when you're developing, there's so much to learn that you are learning. And I've seen it even with your own mediumship, not just the mechanics of mediumship, but there's also the personal development and the inner healing that is happening at the same time. What's that been like for you? Because I know it's not easy, right? Been there, been there.
Yeah, it is not easy. And, I feel like most of my life, almost my whole life, I've been a very shy person. I feel like putting myself out there has, been a little harder, over the years, but to me, it's something that needs to happen. It's necessary. It's a part of your soul's growth, and doing this work really highlights that. And there are some days where it is not easy and you're like, okay, I'm just struggling with my confidence today, or, I'm kind of off, but I feel like you have to have that. You have to have those moments, because you can reflect back on them, and you can apply that to, your mediumship, which I think is beautiful.
Absolutely. You have to honor the human, right? I think we put so much pressure on ourselves, and I see this with all of the people that are in my circles. We put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect and bring through the most incredible pieces of evidence, but yet, really, our job as the medium is to trust what the spirit world's bringing through. And again, trusting and surrendering that they're going to bring through what's ever needed for the person we're reading for, right? So then it's like, well, if spirit's already got it covered, I can take a load off. And the byproduct of that is actually your mediumship is so much better, right?
Yeah, getting out of your own head. I mean, that's like the
Yeah.
big advice I can give anyone. Get out of your own head and just let it flow, because they're there. You just got to let your walls down. And that's hard for a lot of us, because we've
Yeah.
spent our lives putting them up. And that is the key. It's just letting it down.
What has shifted for you since you've been in this circle?
You know what? For me, I feel like the amount of support that I get from the girls in this circle, and having somebody that I can ask questions to. And, because when I first started, I feel like there was so many questions I had. And it's like you were so great with, you know, elaborating on some of this stuff, and like even the girls bouncing stuff, back and forth in the group. It's like, oh yeah, like I always wondered that. And to me, it's the support. That has been the biggest shift for me, for sure.
What's your favorite part about being in the circle, being in this space? Because we have the circle, but we also have the Voxer support too. So when you're talking about support, that is really underpinning everything that we have within this space because I can teach you the mechanics, but if you don't feel supported by me, if you're not feeling supported by the people in the group, if you're not getting a chance to get your questions answered outside of the circle, that lack of support is going to show big time in your confidence, your ability to trust me, yourself, the
Mhm.
peers, the spirit world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have that. I mean, because it is such a vulnerable journey that you're going on, and it's like, and everybody, like I said, works different. And I think it's just a safe space for everyone to you know, just be able to make mistakes. And because I feel like with doing mediumship, you have to make mistakes to learn. And nobody has ever thrown stones at somebody else for making a mistake. If anything, they just jump right in and they just pull you up, And I think for me, just having other women who are into this kind of thing, and that, you just have that sense of community. And I've just never had that before. Like I said, it was very lonely before I joined the circle.
And that's such a common theme, Julia. Like, honestly, it can be really, really lonely. And I've said it before, there's an incredible spirit guide for a medium who's in the spirit world, Silver Birch. And I have a bunch of his books on my shelf, all the colored ones up here. And he has said multiple times in the trance states that mediumship's really a lonely journey. And I think it's because, you know, not everybody understands it, which is totally fine. I mean, I don't think we wake up one day and go, "Oh, I want to talk to dead people," but
Yeah.
they're not dead. They just don't have bodies. But I mean, the the change, the impact that it has on you, for you to actually pursue this, you have to know it's like your soul calling. You just
Yeah.
have to know. You have to have that embodiment, right? And that's where some of the lonely times can, um, it can make it a little bit easier knowing, well, yeah, it's lonely. Not everybody's going to get it, but this is part of my soul calling. And this is why having that support and that community is so imperative. Like there's a lot of mediums that figure they're natural, they can do it on their own. They can do all the studying on their own, but you actually don't develop your mediumship to the degree and the potential to which you actually are capable of without that support, because it's kind of like having a garden but you're not actually putting any fertilizer on it, so the flower is limited on how much it can actually grow, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, prime example with your mediumship.
Mhm. And for me too, Courtney, I do want to say this because I feel like there's been so many, different opinions on this. I feel like a lot of people think, okay, if you weren't born a medium, then you shouldn't be doing this. If you were
Right.
not seeing spirits and hearing spirits, like this is probably not for you. But I disagree with that because I've always had that sensitivity, but it's almost like I have been tapping into it and it has just flourished for me. And it's like, no, you can do this. I think if you're called to do this, you should be doing this. Absolutely. You just have
I
to.
agree. I agree because when people make comments like that, it's often the people that are in the egoic state and they look at themselves better than other people. Now, what I will say is I truly, like, I agree with you. I think everybody has the ability to connect with spirit. In my own philosophy, because I believe we're all souls, spirits having a human experience. So to me, my logical mind is saying, well, if I'm already a spirit, wouldn't that make sense that I already know how to communicate with spirit? It's just my mind that needs the training.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, especially in the spiritualist churches, Julia, because that's where my background is, right? There's like this hierarchy and this superiority. Well, I've been seeing spirit my whole life. I'm better than everybody else. And I just think it's such bullshit because, yeah, I've been aware of the spirit world till, since I was two, but I wasn't until I was in my early 30s that I was like, this is actually the right time for me to even do something, because I didn't even have the language. From growing up in a Christian home, I didn't even know what the word medium meant. In all honesty, I had no clue. But was I seeing spirit and interacting with them? Hell yeah, right? And I think that it's really important, especially people that are going to be listening to your story. It doesn't matter when you became aware of the spirit world. It is that at that moment, that little seed that was planted within you at the time of conception, incarnation, was ready to bloom. And
Yeah.
so, like, let's stop putting limits and barriers on when your mediumship is ready to be developed and explored, right? There's got to be more freedom, less rigidity. I think that really holds a lot of mediums back. And that is why my philosophy and approach is so much different in the spiritual business school. So, Julia, what would you say to the medium that is thinking of joining the mediumship mastery circle, joining my world? What would you say to them?
I would say jump in and do it. You know, any hesitations you have, I mean, just jump in because you will not regret it. It will be the best decision that you've made. And I just feel like you will grow so much in such a short period of time. Like I said, I've not even been doing this for a year. And it's like the growth that I feel like I've had is just phenomenal. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. I would definitely say just jump in, just get going.
Well, from the time that you started sitting in my circles to when you did your first professional reading, that was 6 months.
Yeah. Yep. I know. I can't believe that. It's crazy.
And there's so many mediums that hold developing mediums back. And I say developing mediums not as a level of hierarchy, but I believe we're always developing, right? When we're sitting in a circle, we're developing our mediumship, but it's not about who's better than the other. But I really see so many mediumship teachers holding students back and not giving them the opportunities they need to really stretch their mediumistic muscles. And that's really what's different within this school, is that you get these opportunities that can really help you expedite so much of your development growth while giving you that support that you need while you're in those places and situations, right? Because of course, when you're working with the public, it can get a little nerve-wracking, but I mean, look at you. You just slayed it.
Yeah, and like I said, I would have never, thought, okay, this is something I'm just going to jump in and do, but sitting in circle, even for the time that I did before those readings, is what gave me the confidence to be like, okay, if I could join the circle and be vulnerable with all of these people, I can do this reading. I can do this. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so much fun. It's really an honor and joy to have people like you in the circle. I love it. It is honestly probably one of my favorite things to do. I love it. I look forward to it. So, do you have anything else that you want to share with the people that are going to be listening to this interview and are getting to know you? Is there anything else that you'd love to share?
To me, I just feel like the world needs more, mediums. The world needs more light workers. I feel like we are in such, desperate need of it. And I just feel like just shine your light. If you're called to do this, definitely pour yourself into it. You will not regret it at all.
I agree. Julia, thank you so much, sweetheart, for sharing your voice with these listeners. I love it. It's been so great to have you in here, and I'm so great to keep working with you in Circle.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
The Connected Spirit isn't just a podcast, it's a remembering of who we are, a remembering of our connection to spirit, and a remembering that we are never walking this path alone. Mediumship isn't just about speaking with spirits. It's about deepening the connection to our own spirit, to one another, and to the energy that moves through everything. So as you leave this space, ask yourself, what part of this conversation stirred something within you? What connection is spirit inviting you to strengthen? If this episode spoke to you, please share it, leave a review, and connect with me on Instagram at Medium Courtney Dawson, or visit my website at mediumcourtneydawson.com. Your presence in this community matters because connection isn't just about what we seek, it's what we are. Until next time, trust your spirit, trust the unseen world, and trust that you are always, always connected.